So at age 18, I said to my mom, I said, I think I'll join the Navy. And I'll never forget it. She said, well, I don't know why you do that because you can't even swim. And I said, well, Mom, I said, I don't think it'll matter because if I'm in the middle of the ocean, whether I can swim or not.
Hi, this is Bruce Lindsay working with Elizabeth Gallo on our continuing project to document the stories of veterans. Today we are with Navy veteran Irvin Gers. Irvin was a yeoman third class who served with the Seabees on the island of Okinawa during World War II.
Well, I was 18 and 8/21/26, graduated from high school in 1944. And as the war was going on, I knew very fine well that I was going to get drafted, the same as 16 others in my class. And every one of the 16 out of the 19 boys went away to the service. And so at age 18, I said to my mom, I said, I think I'll join the Navy. And I'll never forget it. She said, well, I don't know why you do that because you can't even swim. And I said, well, Mom, I said, I don't think it'll matter because if I'm in the middle of the ocean, whether I can swim or not. And she, of course, said, well, I'll sign if you need my signature to sign to get you in. Well, it'll be okay with me. So I went to boot camp in Sampson Naval Training Center in New York, not far from Buffalo. Was there for probably 8-10 weeks, whatever it took there. I just forget the number of weeks. And got out of there towards the winter of 1944. And transferred from there after I come home on leave, went to Rhode Island, Camp Davisville, right outside of Providence, Rhode Island. It was a Seabee base. Actually, I guess the name of it was Camp Endicott. And I was there till almost Christmas. And from that point, went to California to another Seabee base. It was called Fort Hueneme. Not quite sure how you spell it right now, but it's a funny name, but it was a real beautiful place in the northern part of California, north central. And was there until, probably about May or June to go overseas. And in fact, the one thing I remember when I was there was April the 12th, 1945, that our president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR, passed away. I was walking across the base lot, and the loudspeaker system came across that FDR had just passed away. Probably within maybe maybe a month or two after that, I had gone to board ship with many others, to Okinawa. And we stopped in Pearl Harbor on the way. In fact, I had an uncle that was in the Navy. He was about 10 years older than me, but he was drafted at that time. And he spent his 2 or 3 years, whatever it took him, from 43 to 45 or 46 to get out. And came home, and that's the only base that he was at, was Pearl Harbor. But when we left Pearl Harbor, it was only there, we were in there one day and out the next day. So I got a chance to spend with him just one day for maybe 6-8 hours. And then the next day, and we left all the ships left to head towards Okinawa, past different islands, Ulithi and Marshall Islands, and I don't know if there were any more islands or not, and we wound up in Okinawa, but I don't recall anybody knowing at all one bit of where we were going, but I don't think we knew where we were going until we really got there. So from that point on, I stayed there from, well, I was only in not quite 2 years, from 1944 to 46. And that was a good time, but there's many times he was wondering about a young 18, 19-year-old person like me was pretty scared. And just hoping. In fact, the matter reminds me, while I'm talking about this, my mom was almost 98 when she passed away, and she might have been 95, 96 years old. She was a widow for 29 years because my dad was a coal miner, and I visited her after I retired every night at 9 o'clock until she had to go to nursing home. And one night she was just sitting there, just sort of blank like, and I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Yes, I'm okay." And I said, "Well," she said, "I have something to tell you." And I thought, boy, that sort of scared me because my mom never said anything unless she meant it. And I thought, wonder what I did, but I didn't do anything. And she said, "Oh, I have a letter from you." And she said, "I'll never forget that." She said, I have it. I don't know where the letter ever went to, but if she said she had a letter, she sure had a letter. And I said, oh no, she said, "Then I'll tell you what it said in it. You told me," she said, "if you ever get out of that place alive, you'll never complain." And she said, "No, son, you stuck to your word." Well, needless to say, when I got in the elevator, she lived on the 6th floor of the apartment building back in Phillipsburg where we lived. She lived also. When I got on the elevator to go down and go home, I told my daughter, I said, "Grown men cry." And I never forgot that. If I lived to be, I'm only 97, but if I live to be, 100, I'll never forget that because it just touched me right here. And I was naturally just glad and happy that she was that way, and I guess really when it comes down to it, just glad and happy that I was home. That never ends, that part of it. But from there on out, why it was just gotten the. I don't know if you'd want me to say what I did after I came home or not.
Sure.
Yes. So maybe. Well, when I came home in 1946. It was, I got home in May of 1946. And of course, naturally, I didn't have a job. No one else did either. The government gave us all of $20 a week for 52 weeks if you stood it that long. It was sort of like, you might say, compensation or something. Actually, what they called it, the 52-20 Club. You got $20 a week if you lasted for a whole year. I guess after 52 weeks, you better have a job doing something. But I don't think I was not working for probably maybe a couple of weeks. And the coal mines was real close back where I lived. And my dad was a coal miner, my granddad, and practically all my relatives. So I went into the coal mine with them for 2 years. And I thought, well, there's better things than this to spend my life doing. So I got in the insurance business, and I stayed there for 36 years. And that was my story for my working time since when I came home. So that sort of
Sure.
sums it up. Yeah, we the whole 16 of us enlisted. In fact, 5 of them enlisted in January, and they couldn't graduate until like last of May or first part of June, and that's the way that worked out. And they got their graduation anyway, but the rest of us all went different directions. And a little town like I was born and raised in Clearfield County, you just the 16 of us didn't want to get drafted, so every one of the 16 of us enlisted. And I don't know how that worked out that way, but that's what happened. And
How old were you when you heard about Pearl Harbor, and what was your
I was
reaction to
15.
that?
I was 15 years old when Pearl Harbor was hit, December the 7th, 1941. I was born 1926, and December December the 7th, I guess, was 19. What
41. What did you think about when you heard about the bombing of Pearl Harbor?
I come home from like I mentioned before, I always went to Sunday school, and my parents had an old radio that I can still see it. It just seemed like it was ancient to me. Back then, on a Saturday night, you could hear play West Virginia or Nashville or somewhere and get some country music. That was about the size of that, and I didn't know any different. But anyway, I went to Sunday school. Oh yeah, by the way, get back, and I come home, and my dad said, something serious happened. Pearl Harbor was hit, and to be very truthful, I didn't think that much of it at age 18. I wasn't following it. There wasn't that much news, and we certainly didn't get any newspaper. So that's the way I heard about Pearl Harbor, and the only time I come next anything close to that was on my way to Okinawa when the ship stopped for whatever reasons for a day, and that's when I visited my uncle. So after that, I just went to Okinawa and spent my time until I got home in 1946.
So you enlisted in 43?
44. Yeah.
You must have had some time. When did you decide that that's what you were going to do?
Probably right when everyone else was enlisting. I didn't pay any attention to how many it was, but as it wound up, 16 of us went. And my mom said, how are you going to do this? And I said, well, I guess I have to go to Altoona, because in Osceola Mills and Phillipsburg and Clearfield Center County, there was not much traffic or many people going to too many places at that time. And I thumbed my first ride that I ever did at age 18 to go to Altoona. And that was about 35 miles. I never thumbed a ride before or since. But a lady from town, they owned a dynamite business that serviced, that they sold all the dynamite and powder and things like that for coal mines. And she said, when I got in the car, I was down the bottom of town, thumbing a ride. And she said, where are you going? And I said, I'm going to Altoona, and I'm going to enlist and go get in the Navy. And she said, well, I'll see. I'll just see that you get there. My parents knew of her a little bit, but weren't didn't live too far away. But they was never that close. And when I come home, when I got to Altoona, I can't remember how I got home, because back then, if the police in Altoona and Tyrone, if they saw someone that they knew needed help and was connected with the service, they would stop automobile and ask them where they were going. If they were going the right direction, you got to ride back home, because they didn't have any car or anything. So got home, and I suppose in a couple of weeks had to go back to Altoona, and went to Pittsburgh, and then I guess to Sampson Naval Training Center in New York. That was outside of Buffalo, and that's when I had the boot training, and went, like I said, to California. Was spent Christmas there, and then spent the next Christmas in Okinawa. So wasn't home. I wasn't gone too long, but I just wasn't home either.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I guess, I suppose, when I was feeling a little bit maybe low as a 18, 19-year-old. By the time I was in Okinawa, it was mighty dangerous. You didn't walk around at night, or didn't do anything in the Seabees. You just stayed pretty much put, unless there was something that they needed to be done, and that you was, I guess what I would say about myself, I was probably a helper, because I certainly wasn't capable of driving any heavy equipment or large trucks and that. Getting out of high school, they didn't need it. The people that was about 10, 15 years older than me did all that. And if there was any kind of help that I was able to do, or that they said they needed, you do whatever they told you, really.
So, what was your actual day job while you were in Okinawa? Were you worked in an office, or?
Yeah, between office and supply. And if there was anything that you needed to do, they just come and picked you up, and you just went and did whatever you could with someone, or someone older, or it didn't seem too important to me at the time, but I often think too, anyone that contributed and they were doing something for their country. I certainly thought the world of the United States of America, that's for sure. It always will. It doesn't seem like, sometimes, maybe this day and age, it might be a little bit different, but it's still the good old USA.
Do you think that anything that you learned during your time in the service, you were in business for many years, do you think you learned anything that you applied for
What's that now?
during your career as in insurance?
Yes.
Do you think that anything you learned in the military helped you?
Discipline. That I think would be the most important thing. And I still do it to this day and age. When I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is make my bed. And I try to live a life that's worthwhile. If I can do anything for anyone in the best way possible, I would want to do it. Winston Churchill, I think it was, said that do something for somebody every day that you don't get paid. And I don't care if that would be opening up a door for a lady or a man or whoever to go into McDonald's, or to in the business place, or any little thing that you could do each day. My mom was that way. She was giving, and I'd like to think that it make a little contribution, if at all, to mankind, I guess, to anyone that you could do that for.
You've mentioned your parents. You have you want to talk about your family at all? You have kids, grandkids?
You mean my life?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my mom was almost 98 when she passed on. And just for an example about the longevity in our family, she had two sisters. I knew the both of them very well, and one brother. The two sisters died when they were in their 90s, and their brother, who I visited in Okinawa or in Pearl Harbor, he was 97, and believe it or not, the whole four of them, every one of them celebrated their 50th anniversary. It's unusual. Here I am, 97, never thinking of my own family. Well, I think back of theirs, their families now. But my daughter is 72, and I have 3 grandchildren, grandson, and 2 granddaughters, and I have 5 great-grandchildren, and now I even have a great-great-grandson, 5 generations. And I'm trying to think a little bit, 5 generations, but I never dreamed that years and years ago to be in, I'll be 98 in August, and I just never gave that kind of a thought. But I have a wonderful family, and that's the most important part of my life is my family. And they respect me and love me, and that's the same with me. I just had one great-grandson here today. He was from back in Clearfield County visiting, and he was here, and we were talking about when he was younger and how I took him to McDonald's because he's the great-grandson that has the little boy that makes my great-great-grandson, and he was here this afternoon, and he said, "Remember, Dad," or yeah, Dad, Pop, you're taking me to McDonald's all the time. And I said, "I sure do, Kyle," because he was operated on at Shriners Hospital for his hip when he was 9 years old. And so he's now 26, he'll be soon be 27. And he has a little boy, and I saw them. And when he left, he said, he said, Pop, I can't tell you how much I love you. And that gets you right here, And I have such a great family and a wonderful daughter and son-in-law. Yeah, by the way, my son-in-law's, he's a former Marine, and he's just the same as the rest of them. They're just a great family, which I'm thankful. So as long as I'm on this earth, why I've got good families and had good parents, and I've had a good life. So good Lord must still keep me here for some purpose. Maybe it's to help somebody a little wee bit along the way. I don't know what it would be, but
You doing it right now. You mentioned you were talking about faith earlier. Do you want to talk about that at all, or
about what?
your faith, your beliefs?
Yes, that's right. I went to Sunday school from the time I was, my goodness gracious, 7, 8, 9 years old, and went all that time, and really always enjoyed going to church, and still do every week. And I'm just that way because I know God's on my side, and I'm one of his wonderful people that's in this world too. So I have all the faith in the world, and I'm 100% believer, and I know when I leave this earth where I'm going. And that's important because I'm not going to worry about it. If something happens, I leave tonight, I've done whatever I thought was right in my life, and I guess I'm just okay now. So I'm at peace anyway.
So, what would you say to young people? You learned a lot and you care about your faith and your family. What would be one thing that you would say to my generation?
Well, if it was a boy, I was at age 18. You've got to go into the service. Maybe I couldn't make them, but that'd be the first thing. You need to have about 2 to 4 years of that, and like we mentioned before, discipline. And when you come out of that, and it could also be a girl. That's no problem because they're eligible, and they women and girls and the armed forces are full of every type of people, and that includes ladies and boys or whatever. But you learn discipline, and I think, and if you spend 2 to 4 years in the service, you come out, you've still got plenty of time to live a life ahead of you and be able to make a contribution to whatever it might be, and somehow again getting to the religious part of it. Uh, I know my family, they're all good people and they're believers, and I would want to, if I could suggest anything, to travel with the right people. Surround you're only as good as the company you keep, and show me your friends and I'll show you your life, and that's about the way it is. And sometimes it doesn't work always. Every family has it here and there, and mine's no exception. But whatever it is, whatever they've done in my family, I forgive them, and I pray at night, every night and every morning with my devotions. I'm not a fanatic or anything like that, but I'm 100% believer, and I believe in prayer, and I do that every morning at McDonald's, and 5 6 days a week, and live good, and you're only as good as the company you keep and whoever you surround yourself with. I would never forget Mom. She used to say, now whatever she would call. There was only three of us boys. Be careful now. You know who you're running around with, because even way back then, it was no exception. Things weren't always so nice out there, and you get mixed up. She said you don't want to get mixed up with the wrong people. Well, we didn't, because if we would have come home, I would have had to answer to it. She was firm, but she was fair. She was a wonderful person, and I would say that surround yourself with the company that you should be with, good people, and that would be my suggestion. I have two granddaughters. One's an EMT, the other one's a teacher. My grandson is in Florida. He's a little bit away from the family in Florida, but the rest of my family's close, and I watch my both granddaughters with their sons. One has 2 boys, and the other one has one boy and one girl, and they're just wonderful kids, and they've got wonderful mom and dads too. And that's the important part, to be able to have that, and to have them be a good person, and they listen too. And I can see it. I don't need to go question anybody or them. They're doing the right thing. Live a good life. Be honest. Tell the truth. But my mom would always say, "No, Duke, I wouldn't have wanted to go home when I was 15, 16, 18 years old and tell a lie." She said, "We won't put up with that. You want to be a good person." And I guess that's why I went to Sunday school and went to church and still do. So it worked with me, and it works with most people that has a good family, and I watch it in my own family too. Yeah, it's just the way of life, I guess.
That's great. I hope 1 million people watch this. Honestly, I do. Uh, do you have anything else you'd like to talk about that you interests of yours, hobbies, anything else that you've done that you'd like to record?
I think I'm like that man. We go down to Gettysburg, the World War II Museum, and we were sitting around a table, well, several months ago, and one guy from Chambersburg, he was 101 years old, and some lady asked him, sitting at Gary and I was at the table, maybe about 3 or 4 other people, and I forget his first name, but one lady was sitting there and said, "By the way, you're 101 years old. What do you contribute that to?" And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what I do. I get a good night's sleep. I get up in the morning, and I keep moving." And he said, "I go to the Elks Club, and I shoot 5 games of pool every day. And then," he said, "I come home for lunch. And I think," he said, "if there's anything more in the afternoon that I need to do, that's it." And he says, "I keep moving." So I'm sort of like that, but I never told that group at the table, did I, Gary? I didn't say that, but the more I think about it, I'm like that 101 years old. I'm just not 101. But here's an interesting story. Gary and I went, he was my guest, and the people that had the 248th anniversary of the Marine Corps was November the 6th last year. My son-in-law was a former Marine, and Gary and I went, and it was 3 other World War II guys there. One was 101, one was 98, 99, was it 99?
And you were 97.
99 and 98,
And you were
and I was only 97, still 97, and
just yet.
that was pretty good. And you know the ironic part of it all, if I had a magazine here that or a program that showed these 3 people and myself at this 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. If I had a write-up and their picture, the pages, every one of those 3 people, us and those 2 people, every one of us served in Okinawa. It's so unusual at the Hotel Radisson over here to have that, and it was a real good gentleman invited me there, and then Gary went with me, and my son-in-law, and we met 2 generals and their wives, and it was just fantastic. They had the Drum and Bugle Corps from Washington D.C. come up, and wasn't it, Gary? Wasn't that quite a time?
20,
Yeah.
20 of them in that orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 of them.
And the one general's wife come over and sat down, and then she said, "I want to talk to you 3 people." She said, "World War II people are my favorite people." She was a sweetheart, and she just was almost down on her knees and bent over in that, and she said, I just love to be around World War II people." And her husband was the commandant.
Yeah.
And he was, I had to look up at him. I was standing, when we had our picture taken up front, I was standing next to him, and he's about 2 feet taller than me.
Wow.
He gave a speech, but you didn't need to, he didn't have any notes. He didn't have to have notes. He was a sharp guy.
This is why we do this, because you hear this story over and over again, and I want as many people as possible to see it.